Senate Democrats, they are getting their butts kicked.
Because getting to the truth matters. Aaron Burnett out front, Tuesday to Saturday on CNN.
We share this place, we all belong. We have to restore this planet soul, teaching something more than what we know. Give it water, give it sun, room to grow. I can see a better tomorrow. I can see a better tomorrow.
To understand Italy, you need to look at the food. Up here in the north, forget about pasta and pizza. This is the land of rice and polenta. Cheers.
Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy, Sunday on CNN. Tech for Health.
Immersive experiences can be used to transform and accelerate our health.
Tech for Empowerment.
Breath deeply.
Tech for Connection.
Being connected to your loved ones is part of our health.
This is Tech for Good.
Join me, Christy Lustone, as we explore the technologies that could shape our world for the better.
Tech for Good, Saturday on CNN, in association with Samsung.
I've traveled further into Romagna, to the coastal town of Rimini. This place is where ordinary Italians come to play, flirt, and tan by the sea. This is really beautiful. Often looked down on by the rich cities of Emilia, this is an unpretentious working-class playground built on the rubble left by Second World War bombs. Obviously, I'm here to eat. Director Federico Fellini is Rimini's most famous son, and it's his films that have given the world the iconic, romantic image of Italy that persists today and casts Italians as a fiery, passionate people driven by their hearts and stomachs. Fellini's childhood here in Rimini was the inspiration for many of his dreamily surreal and unbearably sexy movies. I'm meeting his niece, Francesca Fellini.
Beh, io adoro questo luogo, Stanley, è bellissimo, è pieno di case colorate, non ti senti mai solo perché è pieno dei personaggi dei film di Federico sulle pareti. In questi ci sono tutti i protagonisti di Amarcord.
Amarcord is Fellini's semi-autobiographical movie about a young boy growing up in fascist Rimini in the 1930s. And the tensions in and out of the home. He was very particular about his food, so that when he would come here and visit, he would ask
My mother, the sister of Federico.
to cook very specific
Of course.
things.
He'd taken the phone and said, I'm just arriving in a few hours in Rimini. I want the capelletti in broth. And my mommy, that was great.
Even when he became a world-famous director, Fellini still craved the simple local dishes of his hometown. He said, life is a combination of magic and pasta.
Federico would adore this kind of place, this kind of restaurant.
So Francesca is taking me to a local place where they still make specialties he loved, like capelletti, pasta parcels traditionally eaten in broth on Christmas Day.
Can I introduce you to Alessandra, the queen of the pasta in Romagna?
Yes, Alessandra, it's nice to meet you.
Are you hungry?
Yes. So capelletti Che vuol dire?
Cappelletti in realtà è come la forma del cappello del prete.
Like a priest's hat.
Okay,
Yes.
priest hat, yes.
Rural Romagna was under the control of the papacy for centuries, so it's not surprising that this pasta refers to the Catholic cardinals' jaunty hats.
Che c'è dentro?
In Romagna si mette formaggio di mucca, ricotta di pecora, noce moscata e parmigiano.
And above all, Romagna smile. Yeah, all the elements are very poor. Eggs, flavor,
Wow, ma guarda come giallo.
they are good eggs.
It's important that the sfoglia is very
Thin,
yes.
thin.
You almost want to be able to see your hand through it, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful. Oh, I see.
the priest hat.
Yeah. Come una macchina.
Sì, sì.
Alessandra is also making strozzapreti, which literally means priest choker, a specialty born of necessity and poverty, using just water, flour, and a little salt.
Every cut is perfect. Durante lo Stato Pontificio, i preti sequestravano le uova alle Asdore in Romagna, quindi loro si vedevano costrette a fare la pasta ingegnandosi solo con acqua e farina, e mentre facevano questa pasta maledivano ovviamente e auguravano ai preti che si strozzassero mangiandola. Strangolare,
With
choke with this pasta.
That's funny.
Che è ancora una delle paste più famose della Romagna.
It has everything in it. Revolution, anger, religion, and death.
And
In a little
in a-
thing of pasta.
yes.
Fantastic. Adesso
È stato un
mangiamo.
piacere.
Andiamo.
Andiamo.
So,
Cappelletti in rolls. You have to try.
yes.
Something special.
Oh my God. That's great.
You have to try also strozzapreti
Hopefully we're not going to choke.
con un buon ragù di carne.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. The only reason you would choke on them is if you ate them too fast. Because they were so good.
It's really full of emotion.
Yeah, because you used to come here, right?
Yes.
We're ending the day with an aperitivo at Fellini's favorite haunt, the Grand Hotel.
I consider Federico my magician, a magician in my life.
That's it.
The pasta of Romagna demonstrates how ingenious the people of this region are.
Cheers.
The unique climate, some strict rules, and a few simple quality ingredients are all they need to conjure up a kind of magic
Bellissimo.
and create incredible dishes that are famous the world over.
the kids are home and those after-school cravings kick in, that doesn't have to be a recipe for eating junk food. Try whipping up a smoothie for the kiddos instead. They can be tasty and nutritious when made of strawberry. And the antioxidants in strawberries can help boost your immune system. Or try sweet potato to add a little more zing. Try blending sweet potato, cauliflower rice, almond butter, and then add some of your favorite spices like cinnamon and nutmeg or vanilla. This smoothie is packed with protein and fiber that can help kids stay full longer. And avocado toast can make for a great snack for older kids. Avocados are packed with healthy fats and fiber. For younger kids, keep it simple with yogurt and graham crackers or berries and yogurt. Yogurt is a great source for several nutrients, including bone-building calcium and muscle-building protein.
I'm Patrick Snell in Atlanta, and this is CNN.
It's the key. Don Lemon tonight with the upgrade. As D. Lemon tries to see if he can eat his weight in tacos, you get Laura Coates.
I thought it was nachos. Now it's tacos.
That was last night.
I thought it was Tuesday was taco night. Now Wednesday. All right, well.
He may have no discipline, but he loves diversity in his diet.
Nachos, the tacos. So tomorrow, what are we doing?
So let me.
Burritos. Figure it out.
I don't know. I'll ask him, assuming he's sober enough to answer. Let me ask you this. Let's take up the case. Coates versus Cuomo. Which side do you want on Sha'Carri Richardson? Pro or con the ruling?
I'm always on Coates' side. That's the right side.
All right, you take pro, because that's the right way to be on this, because rules are rules. Here's my pushback on it. Not all rules are the same. Weed is not a performance-enhancing drug. She did nothing to help herself gain any advantage. If anything, you could argue it would be a disadvantage for her. She did a time during mental duress, and it serves no purpose as a policy to enforce this. And the United States should be doing a lot more to resist, not to enable.
Well, you know, I gotta tell you, it's hard to be fully pro or con on this side, right? Because although the rules are the rules, we do have a patchwork of rules when it comes to weed in this country, right? Even Justice Thomas has spoken about this issue, having some uniformity on the issue. I can see an argument that says, look, in order to be an elite athlete, in order to be a part of the Olympics, you have to have the discipline to abide by the rules. We want that to be the case. But again, it's hard for people to understand that this is not somehow the United States of America selectively enforcing certain rules when it's convenient to do so, especially when, frankly, the world stage does know the United States is not always consistent about its rule abiding, is it?
Right. And look, Dominic Dawes was just on. Being underage is an advantage in gymnastics. Why? They peak early. There's so much wear and tear on the body. There's an advantage. Taking substances that allow you to heal and give you a different level of laxity in your connective tissue. That gives you an advantage. You get caught, you should lose. This is not one of those things.
Well, you know, as the president said about it, maybe it's time to look into changing the rules to actually reflect that. But if they're going to do it for that, then I suspect the federal government has got to do it when it comes to what schedule they put marijuana on as well, in contrast to what states do. So it's an ongoing conversation. I kind of went between pro and con, but I see both sides of an issue when you're talking about rules that are applied differently state by state. Thank you.
I feel like I lost twice in that conversation. I don't know.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it?
Only with you. Laura Coates, you are the upgrade, and it's always a pleasure. I look forward to watching the show.
Thank you, and I'm jealous you got to talk to Dominique Dawes. I was a huge fan of hers and never a gymnast, so fine, whatever. This is Don Lemon tonight, nice seeing you, and I'm Laura Coates in for Don on a night of major developments on multiple big stories. New tonight, Rudy Giuliani's law license is suspended in Washington, D.C. That after the president's former personal lawyer saw his license suspended in New York, all for pushing the big lie of non-existent election fraud.
They only submitted 8,021 ballots from dead people, mail-in ballots for dead people. It's probably easier for dead people to submit mail-in ballots than it is to vote in person.
We cannot not allow these crooks, because that's what they are, to steal an election from the American people.
Let's have trial by combat.
The appeals court in D.C. saying the man once known as America's mayor would be suspended from working as an attorney in the city pending the outcome of a situation in New York. We've got much more on that in just a moment, and it comes as, on Capitol Hill, Kevin McCarthy, who's been doing everything he can to drag his feet and delay the investigation of the January 6th insurrection, now is deciding to put some Republicans on the committee, almost certainly to include some Trump allies. Meanwhile, a new book quotes the then President of the United States praising Hitler while on a trip to Paris to commemorate the end of World War I. And according to the book, frankly, we did win this election. The inside story of how Trump lost by the Wall Street Journal's Michael Bender. Trump reportedly told then White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, quote, well, Hitler did a lot of good things. Former president denies saying that, and CNN has reached out to John Kelly for comment. But the idea that the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, would say anything to praise the man responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jewish people in Nazi concentration camps is despicable. Hitler did not do a lot of good things. And this is not just the former president. This is the undisputed leader of the GOP. And his party clearly has not learned that this is, and I'll say it again, despicable. But first, to Rudy Giuliani. His law license suspended in the nation's capital. I want to bring in CNN's senior political analysts, John Avalon and Kirsten Powers. So nice to see you all here tonight. I'll start with you, John, because these suspensions, as you know, are a huge blow for the former Manhattan U.S. Attorney and Mayor of New York. He also ran for president. I mean, you actually worked for him. So how are you looking at the situation?
Well, I think it's a tragedy when you look at the arc of his career. I mean, this is somebody who was one of the most respected prosecutors of his generation, leading the Southern District of New York, and was really revered in that office. So to have the first insult be to have the SDNY raid his house, and then remove his law license in New York in a blistering document by those judges. And now, you know, Washington, D.C., it's part of a pattern. But I think it shows how far he's fallen in some very critical ways. You know, this is somebody who used to say that the law is a search for the truth. He did not engage in anything resembling a search for the truth in his defense of Donald Trump by pushing the big lie, consistently in courts and other places. So, you know, you reap what you sow, and there needs to be accountability for lies in court, especially when, you know, a United States election is at stake and you call for trial by combat before an attack on our Capitol.
And by the way, he knew better, right? Kirsten, I mean, the idea here that Giuliani can somehow claim that, oh, I didn't know better. He was the SDNY U.S. Attorney. He was the mayor of New York. He's somebody who's in a great deal of legal peril right now. I mean, libel lawsuits and all the like based on it. And even Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who went to prison over the hush money payments to protect his boss. Kirsten, here's what he tweeted. He said, I warned Rudy Giuliani, everything Donald J. Trump touches dies. What do you think about that, Kirsten?
Well, I think that Rudy went into this with eyes wide open. He obviously, I mean, you listed off all of the credentials that he had in terms of understanding the law, and he still chose to lie to courts. He chose to lie to the public. He chose to lie to lawmakers, and about some pretty important things. And so I think this is an appropriate, you know, punishment for him. He frankly probably deserves more, you know, to have his license at least suspended for a period of time as this process is going on. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I personally never was a huge Rudy Giuliani fan, but I have to say, even setting that aside, it still is, as John is saying, a real fall for this person. You know, even if whatever critiques you would have of him as mayor, this is so far removed from that person, and he made that choice. I think he understood what he was doing.
And by the way, need not be a fan of the person. The courts are a fan of the truth, and that's what's owed to the courts, right? So when you go in there and you try to bring in the court of public opinion and you say all these things that are not honest, and you're trying to use the courts as some vehicle and mechanism of this pulpit, it ought to not work. But let's go to the idea of how the big lie, by the way, is not just something that's confined to a discussion about Rudy Giuliani, because John, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, you know that he's finalizing his picks now for the Democratic-led January 6th investigation, and he frankly is likely to tap lawmakers who he thinks can defend Trump. And I wonder, is that tactic going to work, especially after Speaker Pelosi, I mean, she included Republican Liz Cheney as one of her picks. Is that enough of a counterbalance?
I don't think this is about counterbalance, right? There's no compromise with lies. The question is how many trolls he's going to try to stack the deck with. And the potential danger of blowback to fair-minded Americans watching the process. You know, at the very least, he should consider appointing at least one of the 35 Republicans who voted for the bipartisan commission, but I wouldn't expect that from Kevin McCarthy. Do they want to make this a sideshow? Well, they're going to look like the circus. You're going to have to agree on some basic facts. And if they continue to push the big lie in the context of this investigation, it will not be a good look for them. But you shouldn't expect anything less because they've embraced a complete rewriting of history today.
So, Kirsten, I mean, should Pelosi use her veto power if McCarthy goes ahead and chooses any Republican who's been complicit in the big lie?
I mean, if he ends up choosing, which I don't think that he will, but if he ended up choosing, you know, any of these, you know, like Marjorie Taylor Greene types, then yes, absolutely. But I think that, you know, there should be some deference probably given to him in terms of who he appoints. She can't just say no to anybody that doesn't fit her criteria. And I think that what they're trying to do is basically, I think he's realized that just ignoring this isn't really an option because it's something that will play out in the media. And so without having people there to make the argument that he wants made, that Donald Trump wants made, it's just ceding all that ground to the Democrats. But, you know, the way the Republicans are approaching this, we just should never normalize it. You know, the idea that the way that they have opposed even having this investigation in the first place is highly problematic. And the fact then that in choosing people to be on this committee, he's only going to be thinking about what's good for him politically, versus if you look back at Democrats with the Benghazi committees, how they actually treated it seriously and put serious people on, you know, Elijah Cummings, people who could have relationships with people across the aisle and who would treat it seriously. The Republican Party just is not, they're not even trying to govern in any way, and they certainly aren't even living up to the standards that they held Democrats to.
John Avalon, Kirsten Powers, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
You know, I think on that point, we need to clear up a few things. A few things that for some inexplicable reason seem to be confusing to some of our elected officials and the so-called leader of the GOP. And frankly, I can't understand how anyone could be confused by these facts and right versus wrong, yet here we are. Starting with a report out of a new book from the Wall Street Journal's